The distress signal. Alan Foster stared at his computer screen with a frown. For the past 3 days, the same pattern had appeared in his data from the Deep Space Monitoring Station. At first, he thought it was just random noise, but something about it seemed deliberate. He took a sip of his cold coffee and ran the analysis program again. The pattern repeated, a series of pulses that couldn't be explained by any known astronomical phenomenon. "Hey, Nancy," he called to his colleague across the room. "Can you look at this for a second?" Nancy Kim wheeled her chair over and squinted at his screen. "What am I looking at?" "This signal from Sector 47. It's repeating in intervals of exactly 83 seconds. Too precise to be natural." Nancy's eyes widened. "Have you run it through the verification protocols?" Alan nodded. 3 times. "It's consistent." Within hours, the quiet NASA monitoring station transformed into a hive of activity. Senior scientists arrived, along with government officials wearing serious expressions. Alan explained his findings again and again as more specialists crowded into the small facility. By evening, Dr. Lisa Miller, the leading xenolinguistics specialist in North America, arrived by helicopter. She had dark circles under her eyes, but moved with purpose as she set up her equipment. "The signal contains mathematical sequences," she explained to the room of anxious faces. "Prime numbers, followed by what appears to be geometric representations. This isn't random, it's a message." For 2 weeks, Lisa barely left the facility. She worked through nights, analyzing the increasingly complex transmissions that were now coming through more frequently. Ellen brought her meals and sat with her as they discussed possibilities. "It's a language based on mathematical principles," Lisa said one night, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. "And I think it's asking for help." The breakthrough came when Lisa identified patterns matching the physical constants of our universe, the speed of light, Planck's constant gravitational force. These were universal concepts any advanced civilization would recognize. "They're establishing common ground," she explained to the emergency committee, then providing coordinates. "These beings are somewhere near Jupiter, and they're in trouble." General Harris from Space Command frowned. "How can we be sure this isn't some kind of trap?" "We can't," Lisa admitted, "but the message contains details about their situation. Technical specifications, power readings. If they wanted to lure us, why include so much specific information? They're describing systems failures and life support issues." The United Nations called an emergency session. Representatives from all major space agencies gathered in New York as Lisa presented her findings. The room fell silent as she played the translated message. "To any sentient beings receiving this signal, we are the Valdurian Exodus Fleet. Our propulsion and power systems have failed in your outer solar system. Life support failing. 2.3 million souls aboard. Request assistance. We offer knowledge and friendship in exchange." Alain watched the faces of the delegates as they absorbed the implications. Humanity was not alone, and its neighbors needed help. "The nearest ship we have is the ISS-2, said the NASA director. "But it would take months to reach Jupiter, even with our newest engines." "Then we better start now," replied the Russian Space Agency chief, "because someone just knocked on our door." 3 days later, international crews began assembling on the ISS-2. Equipment was rushed from Earth on emergency launches. Captain John Martinez, who had led 3 previous deep space missions, was appointed to command the rescue operation. As the response team prepared, more detailed transmissions arrived. Schematics, biological information, cultural data. The Valdurians were sharing everything they could to help humans understand them. "They're scared," Alan told Lisa as they reviewed the latest data. "You can see it in how urgent the transmissions are becoming." Lisa nodded. "Wouldn't you be? They're stranded in an alien system with their people dying." "Well," Alan said with determination, "let's make sure first contact isn't their last contact." Captain John Martinez watched as Earth grew smaller through the viewport of the horizon. The experimental spacecraft carried a crew of 12. the best engineers, scientists, and pilots Earth could offer. Their mission was unprecedented. Make contact with an alien species stranded near Jupiter. Status report, Martins asked, turning to his navigation officer. All systems operating at peak efficiency, Captain. We're on course for Jupiter. ETA 96 days if we maintain current acceleration, replied Lieutenant Susan Wilson. Martinez nodded. The Horizon was humanity's fastest vessel, equipped with the new fusion drive that had never been tested on such a long journey. They were literally flying into the unknown. Dr. Lisa Miller floated into the command center, her tablet displaying the latest alien transmission. Captain, we've received more detailed information from the Voldurian fleet. They're sending technical specifications of their ships now. Can we understand their technology? Martins asked. Some of it. Their mathematics translates well, but their engineering principles are different. They work with materials we've barely theorized about. As the weeks passed, the crew settled into their routine. Every day brought new transmissions from the alien fleet, each more detailed than the last. The Voldurians were becoming desperate. Their main colony ship's life support is failing. Alan Foster reported during the daily briefing. He had insisted on joining the mission, his experience with the original signal proving invaluable. They've moved most of their population to the secondary vessels, but they're overcrowded. Martinez studied the holographic display showing the Voldurian fleet. Over 200 vessels of various sizes clustered near Jupiter's orbit. How many did you say are on those ships? He asked. At least 2 million, Lisa answered. They're refugees. Their home system's star became unstable. This fleet represents everything that remains of their civilization. On the 60th day of their journey, the crew received the first visual transmission. The command center fell silent as the screen displayed a tall, chitinous being with 4 arms and compound eyes that shimmered with iridescent colors. Greetings, humans of Earth, the alien spoke, the translation software converting its clicks and whistles to English. I am Fleet Commander Zivrel of the Voldurian Exodus. We thank you for answering our call when no others could reach us in time. The alien explained how a massive solar flare had disabled their propulsion systems as they passed through Jupiter's orbit. Their ships, designed for the void between stars, were not equipped to handle the radiation storm that had flooded their engine cores. Our engineers cannot enter the damaged areas, Zivrel explained. The radiation levels would kill a Voldurian in minutes. Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks leaned toward Martinez. Captain, from what they're describing, those radiation levels would be dangerous for humans, but not immediately lethal with proper protection. Martinez understood the implication immediately. They need us because we can physically survive where they can't. As they approached Jupiter, the massive gas giant loomed before them. Scattered around it were hundreds of alien vessels, their elegant designs unlike anything humans had imagined. The ships were arranged in a defensive formation, the smaller craft protecting the larger colony vessels. They're beautiful, whispered Lisa as the Horizon approached the fleet. The Horizon slowed as it reached the outermost ships. Enormous structures of metal and crystal gleamed in the distant sunlight. Some vessels showed visible damage, with sections dark and lifeless. We are receiving docking instructions, Susan announced. They're directing us to their command ship. Martinez took a deep breath. This would be humanity's first face-to-face encounter with an alien intelligence, a meeting born not of exploration, but of compassion. Take us in, he ordered. Let's introduce ourselves to our new neighbors. As the Horizon maneuvered toward the massive alien flagship, Martinez couldn't help but think that humanity had just taken its first real step into a larger universe. The docking procedure took nearly 3 hours. The Voldurian airlocks were not designed for human vessels, so engineers on both sides had to create an adapter system. When the final seal was secure, Captain Martinez led a small team to meet their hosts. Dr. Lisa Miller stepped through the airlock first, followed by Martinez and Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks. The gravity was slightly stronger than Earth's, making their movements awkward. They've adjusted their atmosphere mix for us, Lisa said, checking her handheld analyzer. Oxygen levels are compatible. But there's something else. A sweet smell. The corridor opened into a vast chamber where 3 Valdurians waited. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, their exoskeletons shimmered with blue-green patterns. 4 arms emerged from their torsos, and their heads featured compound eyes that reflected light like thousands of tiny prisms. "Welcome to the Starseeker," said the central figure, its translator device converting the clicks and vibrations into English. "I am Fleet Commander Zivrel." Martinez stepped forward. "Captain John Martins of Earth, we come to offer assistance." The Valdurians made a motion with their upper arms that Lisa recognized as their version of a bow. The humans returned the gesture. "Your journey to reach us is deeply honored," Zivrel said. "Please follow us to the command center where we can explain our situation fully." As they walked through the massive ship, humans and Valdurians exchanged curious glances. The alien vessel's corridors curved in strange angles, with surfaces that seemed to shift colors as they passed. In the command center, holographic displays showed the status of the entire fleet. Many sections glowed red, indicating systems failures. "Our exodus began 5 Earth years ago," Zivrel explained. "Our star became unstable, forcing us to abandon our home system. We carry our entire civilization, our history, our genetic archives, our technology." Another Valdurian stepped forward. "I am Chief Engineer Trelkon. 3 months ago, we encountered an unexpected solar flare from your star. It penetrated our shields and flooded our engine chambers with radiation." Ryan studied the schematics displayed before them. "Your propulsion system. It uses some kind of exotic matter reaction." "Correct." Trelkon clicked. "Our cores contain materials that your science would call metastable. The radiation disrupted the containment fields. Without propulsion, we drift," Zivrel continued. "Our life support systems are failing. We have already lost 3 ships and nearly 5,000 lives." Martinez felt the weight of their desperation. "How can we help? Our technology is surely less advanced than yours." The Valdurians looked at each other, their exoskeletons changing shades slightly. "It is not your technology we need," Trelkon said finally. "It is you." Lisa tilted her head. "I don't understand." "Your biology," the alien engineer explained. "We have been monitoring your species since you entered our communication range. Humans have remarkable radiation resistance compared to Valdurians." Zivrel gestured to a display showing comparative biological scans. "Our bodies cannot withstand even brief exposure to the radiation in our engine chambers. But humans, you could survive long enough to make repairs." Ryan whistled softly. "The radiation levels you're talking about are dangerous to us too, but with proper shielding and limited exposure." "Yes," Trelkon confirmed. "Our calculations show humans could work in these environments for short periods without immediate harm." Martinez looked at his team. "You're asking us to enter your engine cores and repair them manually." "We would provide all necessary technical guidance," Zivrel said. "But yes, that is our request. Without this help, our people will perish." The captain considered the implications. Human engineers working inside alien technology they barely understood, exposed to dangerous radiation levels. It would be risky, perhaps deadly. "We need to inspect the damage first," Ryan said. "And I'll need to understand your propulsion systems better." "Of course," Trelkon agreed. "We will share all our knowledge." Martinez gazed at the holographic display showing the fleet. Millions of lives hanging in the balance. The request was enormous. The dangers significant, but the alternative was unthinkable. "We came to help," Martinez said firmly. "And help we will." Back on Earth, the news about the Valdurian fleet sparked the greatest mobilization in human history. Nations that had been rivals for decades now worked together toward a common goal: saving an alien civilization. "We need every available spacecraft," said NASA Director Helen Ward during an emergency United Nations session. "This isn't just about helping the Valdurians. This is humanity's introduction to the galactic community. Within weeks, spacecraft from every major space agency were being prepared for launch. Private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin converted their commercial vessels for the rescue mission. Engineers worked around the clock to adapt Earth technology to be compatible with Valdurian systems. At the Johnson Space Center, engineer Kate Wilson led a team developing specialized radiation suits. "The challenge is balancing protection with mobility," she explained to her team. "The Valdurian engine cores have radiation levels that would kill a person in hours without proper shielding." Kate's team tested prototype after prototype, each one lighter and stronger than the last. They incorporated Valdurian materials transmitted from the fleet, creating hybrid technology neither species could have developed alone. Meanwhile, in orbit around Jupiter, Captain Martinez and his crew continued learning about Valdurian technology. Chief Engineer Ryan Brooks spent most of his time with Trelkan, studying the alien propulsion systems. "Their engines don't burn fuel like ours," Ryan explained during a video conference with Earth. "They create controlled reactions between normal matter and what they call echo matter, something we've only theorized about." Dr. Lisa Miller immersed herself in Valdurian culture and history. The aliens had shared their vast database, revealing a civilization millions of years old with technology far beyond human understanding. "They're refugees in the truest sense," Lisa reported. "Their entire species is on these ships. Every piece of art, every historical record, their genetic diversity. If we fail, we're not just losing lives, we're losing an entire civilization." 60 days after the Horizon's arrival, the first wave of Earth ships reached Jupiter. They carried supplies, equipment, and hundreds of volunteer engineers ready to work in the radioactive engine cores. Colonel Gray Harrison commanded the supply fleet. As his ship approached the Valdurian Armada, he stared in awe at the alien vessels. "They're like nothing I've ever seen," he whispered. The Valdurians had prepared docking stations for the human ships. As engineers and technicians boarded the alien vessels, two vastly different species began working side by side. On the Valdurian command ship, Fleet Commander Ziv Rel shared star charts with Earth representatives, revealing for the first time the true scale of the galaxy as known to their kind. "There are 37 spacefaring civilizations in this sector alone," Ziv Rel explained, gesturing at the holographic display. "Many received our distress calls, but none could reach us in time." "Why not?" asked Lisa, studying the positions of alien worlds. "Distance, resources, political complications," Ziv Rel's translator clicked. "Some are bound by non-interference treaties. Others lack the technology to help. You were our only hope." As the days passed, human engineers began entering the damaged engine cores. Each team could only work for 30 minutes before radiation exposure became dangerous. They rotated continuously, implementing repairs designed by joint human-Valdurian engineering teams. Kate Wilson arrived with the second wave of ships, bringing her finalized radiation suits. "These will double your safe exposure time," she told the repair teams. "But they're not perfect. No one stays in longer than 1 hour, no exceptions." The work was painstaking and dangerous. Human hands manipulated alien technology under the guidance of Valdurian engineers who communicated through video links, unable to enter the radioactive areas themselves. "It's like performing surgery while wearing boxing gloves," complained one technician. "But I'll be damned if we're going to let these people die when we can help them." As repairs began on more ships, a sense of cautious optimism spread through both fleets. Humanity had answered a call from the stars, and in doing so, taken its first true step into a larger universe. Chief Engineer Paul Rodriguez stood at the airlock entrance, checking his radiation suit for the third time. Behind him, 4 engineers did the same with their equipment. They were about to enter the main engine core of the Valdurian vessel Eternal Dawn. "Remember, we have 45 minutes maximum," Paul reminded his team. "The radiation badges will turn red when you hit 75% of safe exposure. When that happens, you head back immediately." The team nodded. They all understood the risks. 20 engineers had already suffered radiation sickness despite the protective suits. 2 were in critical condition back on the human medical ship. Vuldurian Control, this is Human Repair Team 7. We are ready to enter the core. Paul spoke into his helmet comm. Confirmed, Team 7, came the clicking response from Trell-Khan. Inner airlock will open in 10 seconds. The massive door slid aside, revealing a chamber unlike anything humans had built. The engine core was a spherical space nearly 100 feet across. In the center hung a pulsing mass of what looked like liquid metal, suspended in a complex web of crystalline structures. Most of these crystals were cracked or dulled. "Beautiful," whispered Sarah Jackson, one of the engineers. "Even damage, it's beautiful." Paul led the way forward. The artificial gravity was lighter here, making their movements easier despite the heavy suits. Each team member carried specialized tools designed jointly by human and Vuldurian engineers. According to the schematics, the main control nodes are at the equator of the sphere, Paul said. "Let's split up. 2 meters apart, standard observation protocols." The team spread out along the walkway that circled the suspended core. Their radiation meters were already climbing steadily. I found one of the damaged containment arrays, called Engineer Frank Wells. It's completely different from the design specs. This is a much older component. Paul moved to Frank's position and examined the device. "You're right. Trell-Khan, are you seeing this? This doesn't match your schematics." The Vuldurian engineer's voice crackled with concern. "This vessel is from our first evacuation wave. Many of the older ships had to use legacy systems when we fled." Paul ran his scanner over the ancient technology. "We need to understand how this connects to the newer systems before we attempt repairs." On the other side of the core, engineer Mia Chen made another discovery. "I found an active power leak. The radiation is much higher in this section. All teams, back away from that quadrant," Paul ordered immediately. Before Mia could retreat, a brilliant flash erupted from the damaged section. She was thrown backward, her suit's alarm blaring. "Man down," shouted Paul as he pushed off toward her, using the low gravity to leap across the chamber. He reached Mia and saw her suit was damaged, a thin crack running across her visor. "Exposure alert. We need emergency extraction," Paul called into his comm while dragging Mia toward the airlock. The team abandoned their work and rushed to help. As they reached the airlock, the entire engine core pulsed ominously. Back on the horizon, Dr. Maria Gonzalez had been working around the clock. A neurobiologist by training, she had become fascinated by the Vuldurian nervous system and how it interacted with their technology. "Their ships are partially organic," she explained to Captain Martinez. "The Vuldurians don't just pilot their vessels. They connect with them neurologically." Martinez looked skeptical, like a neural interface. "More integrated than anything we've developed," Maria said. "I think I can create a hybrid system, something that would let humans interface with Vuldurian technology more directly." When news of the accident in the Eternal Dawn reached them, Maria's work suddenly became urgent. "If we can't safely put humans inside those engine cores for long periods, maybe we can control repair drones remotely," she suggested. Working with Vuldurian biologists, Maria developed a headset that translated human brain patterns into signals the alien ships could understand. After days of testing, the prototype was ready. Paul, recovered from his rescue of Mia, volunteered to test it first. He sat in the control room of the Eternal Dawn, the strange device fitted to his head. "I can feel the ship," he whispered as the connection activated. "It's like touching another mind." Through this unprecedented union of human and Vuldurian technology, the repair work accelerated. Remote drones now entered the most dangerous areas, controlled by engineers who could sense the ship's systems as if they were extensions of their own bodies. When the first repaired engine hummed back to life, both species celebrated together. It was just one ship of hundreds, but it represented hope for both civilizations. Commander Olivia Bennett stood on the bridge of the support vessel Endeavour, watching the holographic display with growing concern. Red warnings flashed across the Jupiter system map. "Confirm those readings," she ordered. "How long until the solar storm hits?" Her science officer, Ben Parker, checked the instruments again. 36 hours, Commander. It's a massive coronal ejection aimed directly at Jupiter's orbit. Olivia activated the fleet-wide communication channel. "Attention all vessels. This is Commander Bennett. We have a major solar storm approaching. All repair teams must accelerate their schedules. Priority goes to life support and propulsion systems." On the Valdurian flagship, Captain Martinez met with Fleet Commander Zivrel to discuss the emergency. "The storm will hit with twice the intensity of the one that damaged your ships initially," Martinez explained, pointing to the projection. "Any vessels not ready for independent movement need to be evacuated." Zivrel's exoskeleton pulsed with dark patterns, a sign of distress. "We have 27 ships with repairs still incomplete. Over 300,000 of my people are aboard those vessels. We'll need to transfer them to the functioning ships and to our vessels," Martinez said. "It will be crowded, but temporary." Throughout the fleet, human and Valdurian crews worked frantically. The evacuation began immediately, with thousands of aliens moving through hastily connected airlocks and transport shuttles. In the engine core of the colony ship New Dawn, technician Sam Harper was frustrated. Despite hours of work, the navigation system refused to connect with the newly repaired propulsion unit. "I don't understand," he told his Valdurian counterpart, Venler. "The power is flowing, but the navigational array won't initialize." Venler's translator clicked rapidly. "This is our largest residential vessel. Without navigation, 200,000 of my people must evacuate." Sam studied the alien interfaces again. For weeks, he had worked with these systems, trying to understand their logic. Something about the navigation array seemed oddly familiar. "Wait," he said suddenly. "Your navigation systems work like a neural network, similar to old Earth computers, but they're processing in parallel paths, not sequentially." He disconnected his tablet and reconnected it to a different port. "We've been trying to initialize from the primary node, but what if?" Sam input a new command sequence, reversing the startup protocol. The system hummed, and then alien characters began flowing across the screens. "It's working," Venler exclaimed. "How did you know?" Sam smiled. "My grandfather was a computer engineer in the 1990s. Your navigation system reminded me of his descriptions of early parallel processing. I guess some computing principles are universal." Throughout the fleet, similar breakthroughs were happening as human intuition and Valdurian knowledge combined. Ships that had been dead for months began powering up. Navigation systems came online one after another. With 18 hours remaining before the storm hit, Commander Bennett coordinated the movement of ships from the danger zone. "We've evacuated 16 vessels that couldn't be repaired in time," she reported to Martinez. "The others are preparing to move under their own power." On the Valdurian cultural vessel Eternal Memory, Dr. Lisa Miller had been helping to secure irreplaceable artifacts. The ship contained millions of years of Valdurian history, artwork, literature, and scientific knowledge. "Your civilization has preserved so much," she told her Valdurian guide, ZFX. "Earth has lost so many ancient works over time." ZFX led her to a secure chamber at the center of the ship. "Before we depart, we wish to share something with humanity." The chamber contained thousands of crystal data storage units, each glowing softly. "This is the collective memory," ZFX explained. "Our complete scientific and cultural knowledge. We offer copies to humanity as thanks for your help." Lisa stared in amazement. This could advance Earth's technology by centuries." "We believe knowledge should be shared with those who have earned trust," ZFX replied. "Your people risked their lives for strangers from the stars. There is no greater worthiness." As the solar storm approached, the repaired ships began moving away from Jupiter's orbit. Those still under repair were evacuated, their populations crammed into functioning vessels. Commander Bennett watched the fleet's movement from the Endeavour's bridge. "It's going to be close," she murmured as the first radiation waves reached the outer system. The race against time had entered its final hours. The solar storm arrived with devastating force. Radiation levels spiked across Jupiter's orbit as waves of charged particles slammed into the gas giant's magnetic field. The sky itself seemed to glow with eerie light. Commander Olivia Bennett watched from the bridge of the Endeavour as the last human repair teams returned from the alien ships. "All personnel accounted for," reported her executive officer. "And the Voldurian fleet?" she asked. 187 vessels now have functioning propulsion systems. They're moving to the designated safe zone beyond Jupiter's orbit. The remaining 20 vessels have been evacuated. On the Voldurian flagship, Captain Martinez stood with Fleet Commander Zivrel, watching the massive ships move in perfect formation. The sight was breathtaking, a testament to what two vastly different species could accomplish together. "Your people saved mine," Zivrel said, its translator conveying genuine emotion. "We will not forget this." Martinez nodded. "What will you do now? Where will you go?" The alien commander gestured toward the holographic star chart. "We had planned to continue to the Proxima Centauri system. There is an uninhabited planet there that our scouts identified as suitable for colonization. That's our nearest neighboring star," Martinez noted with surprise. "Yes, we would be neighbors in the truest sense," Zivrel replied. "However, the Council of Elders has proposed an alternative." The alien touched the controls, and the hologram shifted to show Earth's solar system. A point of light appeared near Mars. "With your permission, we would establish a permanent embassy here. Some of our ships would remain while others continue to our new homeworld. We could share knowledge, culture, and technology." The implications were enormous. Humanity would gain advanced technology centuries beyond their own development, while the Voldurians would have allies in their new sector of space. 3 days later, representatives from Earth's governments gathered on the International Space Station to meet with the Voldurian leaders. The historic meeting was broadcast to billions of people back on Earth. The United Nations Secretary-General addressed the assembled delegates. "Today marks the beginning of a new chapter in human history. We are no longer alone in the universe." The Jupiter Accord was signed that day, the first treaty between Earth and an alien civilization. The Voldurians would establish their embassy in Mars orbit, and joint scientific missions would begin immediately. As the ceremony concluded, Fleet Commander Zivrel approached Dr. Lisa Miller. "Your understanding of our language and culture made this possible," the alien said. "Would you consent to be the human ambassador to our people?" Lisa was stunned. I would be honored." Back on Earth, the knowledge shared by the Voldurians was already revolutionizing human technology. Kate Wilson's team had begun developing new materials based on alien principles that could revolutionize space travel. Paul Rodriguez was working with Voldurian engineers to design Earth's first true interstellar vessel. 6 months after the crisis began, Captain Martinez stood at the podium in the United Nations General Assembly, Fleet Commander Zivrel towering beside him. The hall was packed with dignitaries from around the world, all eager to hear from the heroes of the Jupiter mission. "We went to space to save strangers," Martinez said. "We returned having found friends. The universe is larger and more wonderful than we ever imagined, and humanity's place in it is just beginning." Zivrel stepped forward, its translator projecting its voice throughout the hall. "In our long history, we have encountered many civilizations. Some were more technologically advanced than yours. Some had existed for millions of years longer. But none showed the courage, compassion, and adaptability of humans." The alien raised all 4 of its arms in a gesture of respect. "You came when others could not, or would not. You risked your lives for beings you had never met. There is no greater virtue in the cosmos." As the assembly erupted in applause, Martinez looked out at the sea of faces. Humans had always looked to the stars with wonder. Now they had taken their first true steps into that vast frontier, not as conquerors, but as rescuers and friends. In orbit around Earth, construction had already begun on humanity's first ship, built with Valdurian technology. Its name was painted proudly on the hull: Unity. The journey to the stars had truly begun.